over me. She's over me. She comes with her hypnotic dance. She holds me here with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, welcome to the Paranormal Portal. I'm your host, Brent Thomas. You're stuck with me now. I'm here to entertain. I live to entertain. Well, I'm here to have a good time anyway, and I hope you're here too to have a good time. Thank you to all of you who are here and will continue to come in here and be a part of our journey tonight. That's always an amazing pleasure and treat. I'm just trying to get little things adjusted here as I'm going through my setup. But thanks for spending your Thursday night right here on the Paranormal Portal. Hope you're having a great day, and tomorrow's Friday, so it's looking good. Should be downhill from here, I hope, for you. Hope you got a great weekend in the hopper. I don't know what you're doing, but I hope you do it well. The weather's kind of gotten nice here, so life is looking up. A little bit of sunshine actually happening here. It's been real cold and rainy and just a long spring. So we're getting the warmer weather now. We're starting to tick into the 70s. So that's really encouraging. Makes it a lot more comfortable here. So I turned off my furnace like a long time ago because we had a warm snap and then it got cold again. And I was like, oh God, I'm not setting that back up. So it's been a little frigid in the portal house, but I think we're on the right path now. So welcome everybody to the show. This is the Night Terrors, our shorter format portal episodes. They're just about an hour, right around abouts. Doesn't have to be exactly, but yeah, I try to shoot for about an hour. And we generally talk about ghostly encounters on these, but we are always able to talk about something else if you have a request of what you'd like us to discuss. Even on these shorter episodes, please, by all means, let me know. I'm always open for listener suggestions. If you have a suggestion for the show, something you'd like to hear more of or something you'd like to hear less of, you can always email me at paranormalportalradio@gmail.com. So those are some options to get in touch with us. And also throughout the course of the show tonight, if you have something paranormal that you'd like to discuss with me here on the show as we're live, feel free to do that. The number for the portal is 720-923-0500. Again, 720-923-0500. So there's ways to get in touch with us here, and I hope you're doing good. I guess I'm about ready to go. Are you guys ready to go? I think we're all ready. I hope you're ready, because it's time for bed. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're in it for real now. That's it. We're in it for real. So before we go any further, I just thought I'd bring this up. I didn't know this was coming up, but I get these different news alerts on my phone. And so apparently there's a weird celestial event or rare celestial event happening this weekend, and it's called it's going to happen on the solstice, but it's a ring of fire solar eclipse. I don't know if it's going to be visible from here or not. This is actually the first I'm hearing of it, so I'm not sure what it should look like or will look like, but it says the summer solstice is nearly here, and with it comes rare celestial phenomena. The first solar eclipse of the decade promises to create a rare ring of fire just in time to kick off the start of a new season. On June 20th through 21st, people in certain parts of the Eastern Hemisphere will be able to view the eclipse. People in other parts of the world or anyone who can't go outside because of the, well, it talks about the coof stuff, but can view the entire spectacle online. And it says the total solar eclipse occurs when the moon passes directly between the Earth and the sun, obviously, completely blocking the sun's light during an annular solar eclipse. The moon does not completely cover the sun as it passes, leaving a glowing ring of sunlight visible. The annular eclipse can only occur under specific conditions, according to NASA. They're the boss. The moon must be in its first lunar phase, and it must also be further away from the Earth on its elliptical orbit, appearing smaller in the sky than it usually would. So that's coming up this weekend. I don't know. I'll have to look into it more. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. But I think eclipses were always regarded as regarded by the ancients as these incredible, powerful events. And I don't know, if any of you are into the esoteric and other ideas about, the state of things and how these events are energetically charged or not. But I think it's probably going to be a profound one. At least I think so. And I always get nervous around anything to do with the moon because it really seems to send me for a loop. I'm not sure what it is. I seem to be somehow tied to the lunar crap. And I mean that with all due respect to any spirits or whatever that might be listening. I don't know. I'm just, I know it sounds flaky, and it does to me too, believe me. But when we had the super blue blood moon that was back in 2017, January of 2017, I about was passing out. I mean, just all of a sudden it just came over me, and I was just doing everything I could to stay conscious. And I was freaked out by that. I'd never had that happen to me before in my life. So I ended up going to the emergency room. They're like, well, you're fine. They couldn't find any reason for it. And so as soon as that spectacle passed, then I was fine. But that was a really weird night. And I've noticed that maybe it's a function of age. Hell, I don't know. But it seems that the the lunar events seem to weigh on me a lot more heavily than ever before in my life. I never would have guessed that in a million years, believe me, but it just seems to be the case. So I do think that it's a very profound event anyway, and who the hell doesn't like an eclipse? I mean, those are kind of cool. So go out this weekend if you're able to and check it out. I think it's, one of those things everybody should witness. I don't know if this is a lot different than the last one. I guess the last one was like a total eclipse, and that was able to be viewed here. And I did get, everybody was getting those weird glasses and stuff. But anyway, enough of that. That's this weekend. Check it out if you're into that kind of stuff. I think it sounds pretty cool. So anyway, this is the Night Terrors. This is Ghostly Encounters that we're covering tonight. And I got some stories pulled up for you, and I'm going to do my best to keep you wildly entertained while I read them, if I do a good job. So the first one tonight is coming from Ohio. And this has to do with haunted places. Well, of course, Ohio has probably more haunted places than probably 90% of the rest of the world. I don't know what's going on in Ohio, but man, they got some stuff cooking there. But let's see what it says. It says, I never wanted to accept that ghosts were real. It was always questionable to me. I recall several nights back in 1989. My husband and I were separated for a while, so I moved into my aunt's old house with my mom, and I was 20 years old with a 10-month-old son. Every night around 3 a.m., my son would wake up for a warm bottle of milk, and my son and I actually slept in the sofa bed. No, you know what? I read this one. Oh, I hate when I do that. I had left it open, but I thought it was because I didn't read it. I'm just going to open up a bunch of new ones. I'm sorry. I got to get better about that. It's kind of rookie night here. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen, but happens to the best of us, or at least to me. It happens to me all the time. So anyway, I pulled up a bunch more. As I recall, it was a decent story, but you'll have to tune into last Sunday's Night Terrors to check that one out. One of those deals. All right, this one's coming from Michigan, and it has to do with Ouija board and seances. So it says, I myself tend to stray away from outright paranormal encounters. to be honest, while they do fascinate me to no end, and I am even a self-proclaimed pseudo-ghost hunter, ghosts in general still leave chills down my spine. Unfortunately, for the time being, I have no more stories about my own personal experiences, but I do have other tales given to me from close family members. This one is from my mom. While my mom was growing up, the one thing that was all the rage as a teenager in her area was getting a bunch of giggly girls together, having a slumber party, and busting out the trusty Ouija board for a night of fun. And it always starts out that way, and it never ends up being much fun. I don't know what's going on with people, but during such one of these slumber parties, my mom had a brush with the paranormal, which will always remain prominent in her mind. The girls were all sitting around the Ouija board, asking it questions about life and their futures and what they might be. Eventually, it came to my mom's turn for questions, and she posed a series of questions to the board. Most of them were about life in general, and to be honest, she can't really recall most of the questions she asked, except a few, which remained mostly accurate. One of which was when she would first be married, and the Ouija board was accurate within the month and the year. Another question which was asked was, how many children will I have? And when will they be born? Which was also accurate to the number of children she bore and the years in which they were due. Honestly, when it was all said and done, my mom didn't play much with Ouija boards after that, and to be perfectly honest, she didn't care to. I'd also like to take a moment to note that I don't condone the use of Ouija boards in the least. They are harmless in the package, simply nothing more than plastic and cardboard. Amen. That's exactly what I think. But when combined with the power of the human spirit, can be a very dangerous tool. Please think of that the next time anyone suggests playing with a Ouija board, or you think of doing yourself. They're not always just a toy. I would agree. I couldn't agree more that they are in and of themselves just a design. Like, they make rugs, they make wallpaper, they make shirts and ties, different things you can buy. You can buy a mug with a Ouija board on it. And that in and of itself is just a design. It's not inherently evil or going to be causing you, weirdness. Shouldn't be anyway. But I guess, it's once they're used or improperly used that they can become problematic, and I'll just leave it at that. I've certainly covered it enough on this show, and if you're interested in knowing more, you can listen to the latest podcast Don and I did about Ouija boards, and you can find that on Pandora, Spotify, iHeart, iTunes, Chatbox, Stitcher, Google Play, etc., etc. So there's a lot of them out there. And, of course, other people have done plenty of coverage on the Ouija boards as well, and some much more qualified than I am. But those are my opinions and Don's opinions as well, so check it out. All right, let's see what's next. Sorry. I had a gurgle in my throat as I was speaking. The next one, of course, is coming from Oklahoma. Of course. I don't know why I said of course, but this has to do with miscellaneous events. So usually a lot of different activity going on. It says, as a general rule of thumb, I try to keep a bit of skepticism in the back of my mind. Any of you who keep up with my comments will know that, but I do try to keep an open mind about things. I have a short story for you. After I moved out of my mom's home, I moved to Oklahoma with a friend of mine. That right there solved all the problems I was having involving the spirits at my mom's house. Either bound there for some reason or another, but they didn't follow me. In early 2005, I started to get into meditation and started to practice grounding and shielding. Not only did meditation give me a chance to catch up and think about the day's events, but it generally left me feeling very refreshed. Early in 2005, I just read that. Around this time, I started reading about astral projection and how it's done, basic techniques and ideas and concerns about it. After thinking about it for a while, I started to try this myself. For the longest time, I was met with no success at all. Finally, one night, I was sitting on the floor, once again trying to successfully astral project. I can't tell you exactly at what point I felt like this, but the area around me began to feel very fuzzy, and it felt as though I was actually being lifted or picked up. The next thing I knew, I was seeing the inside of my apartment from a whole different perspective, away from my body. I could clearly see my body, still sitting quietly on the floor, cross-legged. Suddenly, my roommate came storming into the apartment and slammed the door behind him. He was in an obvious huff about some work-related issue, and he had taken me by great surprise and made me jump. The next thing I realized, I was sent slamming back down to the ground. I was really upset, believing that I have experienced a general astral projection. Unfortunately, it seems, along with intense meditation, my senses were starting to become more developed and keen to other things around me. And I wasn't necessarily interested in that. I recall more than one time hearing whispering, unintelligible but still quite upsetting or unsettling. It says, I quickly dropped meditation after that. Was I sleeping? Did I really experience what I thought I had? I really believe that I did. But that's still up for debate. Does this even fit under ghost stories? Well, I had to ask myself the same thing, and I came to the conclusion that what else could your astral self be besides a spiritual alteration of you? Which begs the question, if you somehow became trapped while astral projecting, what happens to you? I know there's a lot of people, I'm not overly familiar with astral projecting. I mean, I'm familiar with the claims of what it is and of course some of the warnings and stuff, but I've never, to my knowledge, astrally projected. I've had lucid dreams, and maybe those lucid dreams are more projection than they are just a normal dream. I don't know for sure, but that's certainly a theory that I have. But I do know that some people talk about the warnings of such things, of projecting out and some of the dangers that may lay out there and wait for you. I don't know if that's true or not. I can only assume it must be, because there's plenty of people that really firmly adhere to that thinking that astral projecting can be quite dangerous. I suppose that it could. I don't know. But I think, like anything else, I think it's naturally a part of our ability. I think we are spirits in and of ourselves. Now, I don't think that that's necessarily the same thing as a ghost. I think that the astral projection is a more true representation of us in a lot of respects, in that we're still in the plane of the living. We're still functioning within that plane and are grounded to it. But the astral projection, I think, is more of another facet of ourselves that we normally don't utilize too much during this lifetime, because I don't think most people know how, and myself included. I'm not trying to be condescending in any way by saying that, but I think that, could there be things out there that wait in the astral realm to possibly affect people? I've heard the warnings. Some people say that there are things out there that will try to sever your connection to the body and then take over, come back as you. Maybe that's possible. I don't know. I don't really pretend to know a whole lot about it, but I know that there's certainly anything you're going to do that is more of a spiritual exercise like that. I think you should be plenty prepared anytime you start doing things like that. Now, I've also heard stories of people giving up meditation because they started encountering dark things during their meditation, and they felt like they were being pulled out and into places and away from themselves, and it felt very threatening, and I can understand that, because my God, we don't really understand what's out there. We don't really know. There are some people that will tell you they know, and maybe they have a better idea of it than I do, but I'm here to tell you, I don't know what's out there. I don't know all of the different things that are out there or different possibilities, but I know that the spiritual manifestations and representations are very real. I don't have any doubt in my mind that there is more of more planes of existence that we are present on than just this physical plane that we live our lives in. I think we are completely connected to these other planes of existence. And I think that once you project yourself out of your physical body, that if you're not protected, if you're not aware of ways to protect yourself or shielding or whatever manner of exercise you might undertake to prepare or to protect yourself, then I would imagine you're probably more vulnerable. And the thing is what occurs to me is if there are things that exist on those other planes just waiting, they're a hell of a lot better at being there than we are, because we really aren't aware of much outside of our physical reality. And sometimes there's people that aren't very aware of that either. So I think that anytime you're going to exercise something spiritually, you should make sure to have protections, involved. And whatever that means. Again, this show isn't going to ever be a how-to, but it is a discussion. So I think there are reasons to be a little cautious about things like astral projecting. I think that's, and like anything else, an ounce of prevention's worth a pound of cure, or whatever that saying is. And so I think that at the worst case scenario, you prepare for something and don't need it. But best case scenario is you prepare for something and you do need it, and you're ready for that. So I don't know. Again, I don't know. I don't think it's ever a bad idea to be doing things like meditation. I think that all in all, that's a very good thing. Now, I will say that it will also align you with an awareness of other things. I think it does. I think that it makes you much more spiritually aware than we normally are. And as such, we may get the attention of things that are around, and they might decide to try to, do whatever it is they do. So I think even meditation should be done with a fair knowledge of protecting yourself in that manner, and whether that's through prayer, through other ritual or symbols or crystals or incenses or whatever. Again, it's anything to do with the spiritual. I think the protections and the shielding that you do is valid in any regard. So that was a good story. I think that's an interesting topic, one that we don't talk about much on the Paranormal Portal. But again, this is more a discussion of supernatural and paranormal phenomena than it is about developing ourselves and our souls. But I think they do go hand in hand. So the next one is coming from Kansas. We in Kansas no more. This has to do with photos, but I don't see any photos attached to this. So I'll read it and see what it says. It says, for several months, our 7-year-old neighbor girl has been saying that a man has been coming into her room at night. The man has communicated with her, and he seems obsessed that he doesn't like the light. She said he has been shot in the head, that there's no particular time that he visits her, although it's always in the middle of the night. We placed a video camera with night shot up in her room, and to our surprise, we were able to see a shadow appear when we watched the video later. That's creepy. Last Friday, we placed a digital voice recorder in the room, and we stayed in the room with the lights off. The room got incredibly cold, and we felt movement but didn't hear anything with our own ears. When we later played back the recorder, we heard what sounded like a voice and later a growl. Oh, that's terrifying. We can't make out what the voice is saying or what language is it. We don't know. What does this spirit want, and why won't it leave this little girl alone? She's incredibly frightened, and we don't know what to do to get rid of it. He's threatened her not to tell anybody about him. He knows she has told and displayed his anger by waking her up with what felt like a poke or a bite on her arm. However, there were no marks left on her. The spirit does not stay in one room of the house, and I believe the light the spirit is referring to is not an earthly physical light. If anybody has suggestions, please comment. It looks like they had tried to attach a voice file with it, but that's long since been removed. But this is also from 2009, so it's quite old. Yeah, that's horrible. I don't understand the whole targeting kids, but then again, kids are more receptive. Obviously, this is a presence with a hell of a lot of issues, and I agree. As I was reading it, I didn't get this sense that it was talking about the physical light or the light of the day, but a spiritual light that it's referring to. That's horrible, horrible thing. I sure hope they were able to help that child and help her go on to be peaceful and happy. But God, that kind of stuff just yanks at your heart, because the little ones, they shouldn't be dealing with that kind of stuff. That's really, in the grand scheme of things, it's not very fair. But anyway, I'm just bringing it to you as I find them. The next one is coming from Virginia. This has to do with haunted places. There's something that happened 8 years ago. I haven't thought about it much until recently. And anyway, I was living alone in a small studio in Falls Church, Virginia. I may have been living there for some months, probably weeks, when I started to notice some sort of noises coming from the ceiling in the middle of the night. That may not have been a problem, except that I was living on the third floor, and above me was the roof. As for the noise, it was like some scratching or even a knocking sound. I'm not very good at locating sound, but I was pretty sure that it came from the studio corner up the wall towards the ceiling, just above my bed and my head. That's horrible. I would just wake up and I would turn the lights to see where the sound was coming from, and it would temporarily stop. After I'd turn the lights off, it would resume after a short while. I tried to convince myself that it was some chipmunks or other kinds of animals making that noise, although what animal would be up in the night, in the middle of the night, making that? After that, I've never felt any kind of weird thing going on in that studio. However, I have never been very comfortable living there either. Probably I was also lonely and homesick. I was a foreign student working on a master's degree, and I remember going to the bathroom at night and walking directly to the toilet, trying not to look at anything else like the closet or the bathtub, and especially not the bathroom mirror. I remember the noise would come and go, and one day I got pretty uncomfortable. I decided to get a pet for companion. I got a ferret from the pet store, and a week later, some neighbor kids found some stray kittens, and I took a black one with me, and I think since then, I stopped hearing the noises. I also felt more comfortable with the cat around me. Anyway, would that be a spirit trying to call me? Did my black cat get rid of the spirit? Anyone know of an animal that would make a knocking sound on roofs and walls in the middle of the night? You know, I've lived in houses that had rodent problems, not rats, but I lived in a house that had mice and squirrels, and I'm here to tell you, they can make a hell of a racket in a house, and it's the weirdest thing. One of which was this house, and I never did find. Well, no, that's not true. Anubis did catch a mouse, and after he got that mouse, and maybe others, but I only know of one that he got. But that mouse problem went away. But there would be sounds in the walls like this. I don't know how to say it, but almost like something gnawing on wood, like kind of like this. You know, like that in the walls, and then sometimes this little scurrying noise, and it sucks. And I go over and bang on the walls and stuff, and it didn't seem to deter it too much, me banging on the walls. But I do have to say, after I got Anubis, that seemed to take care of the problem. Now I do know that there was mice here, like there was, and the reason why I was excited to get Anubis was because nothing sucks more than when you go into your kitchen and you find mouse turds on your stove. It's like, oh God, it's just the worst feeling. So you're like always scrubbing and sanitizing everything just because you don't know where the hell they've been. But all you do know is that they're somewhere in there because they managed to at least poop. And so, but after I got Anubis, I saw him go after one, and it was, it was the most impressive thing I've ever seen. He was just like laying there, and he looked like he was just relaxing, and all of a sudden this little mouse shot out from under this pantry door. That basically it's an unfinished kind of walls in there and stuff, and there's some shelves, but this mouse shot from under the pantry door and was sitting close to the refrigerator, and I looked at that. I looked at Anubis, and he exploded into this black streak. And he had that thing in a heartbeat, and I was like, oh my God, that was so amazing. But after he got that one, and he possibly got others, but after that, then that scratching noise quit. So I do believe that this could very well be a rodent kind of problem. Hell, I don't know what rats sound like, but I imagine they're bigger than mice, and I know how loud mice can be. So I'm not saying it couldn't be spiritual. And of course, there is the idea that cats are guardians, protectors, that they are good. If you're dealing with a haunting, they can be really good in helping to keep the spirits at bay, or at least, alert you of their presence. But is it possible that the cat presence was just enough? Maybe. I don't know. But if you have a ferret too, they're voracious at getting mice and rats and stuff too. In fact, there's a series on YouTube, and this isn't really related, but I stumbled onto it by accident. And there's this guy that he has this crew of mink, like several mink, and they'll go to these farming communities where they're just overrun with these rats and stuff, and they'll like, I don't know, they'll start turning over pallets and barriers and stuff, and these mink will go in there and just like stack bodies. It's crazy how many rats they will kill, and they'll go like crazy. They don't just kill and then drag one away. They kill one, look for another one, kill that, and there are just these machines of raticide. And I was absolutely stunned. I didn't know that. And some of these rats were nearly as big as the mink, but it didn't matter. Those mink were just lethal. So I don't know. I'm not advocating anybody watch that or not, but I just thought it was really fascinating. I did not know that mink will take out rats, but they will, and incredibly well. So I don't know about the knocking ghost that was covered in this story. Could it be a spiritual thing? Sure, but it could also be a lot of other things. And I think that's I don't know. Unless you had other factors contributing to that, it's hard to jump right to paranormal just because of a weird noise. So let's see. This one is coming from New York. All right. Oh, by the way, I suppose I should announce this. Tomorrow, on Friday's show here on the Paranormal Portal, we're going to have a special show about giants. And I've got Ra Castaldo joining me here on the Portal tomorrow night. And Ra's been on the show a few times. He's a fellow TFR host, but he's absolutely fanatical about the giants, has a whole compendium of knowledge, and has really researched this extensively. So he's going to be joining us tomorrow night on the show, and we're going to discuss giants. And it'll be the first time ever breaching that subject on the Paranormal Portal, but I'm really excited for it because it's a subject I find absolutely fascinating and unnerving as well. As you know, there are still reports of people seeing giants, like 15, 20 feet tall, lumbering things in deep forests. And I mean, that to me is absolutely incredible. And it's, of course, the giant of Kandahar, the claim that's come out of Afghanistan after the American troops were over there of running into what appeared to be these red-haired giants. There was also a story that Wes brought to the show where he talked to this special forces guy from Vietnam area where they ran into a giant, and that story is just tattooed in my mind, what that must have been like. But this is still a phenomena that's coming up, and as wild as that may seem to some people, if you're just tuning in or you're kind of new to the paranormal, it'd be like, well, there's giants, okay. these claims are coming in. People are seeing something. And I would also encourage everybody to just remember that all of the legends are built on some truth. And of course, giants are biblical. There are many references to the giants in the Bible, in other religions around the world. This is not a new concept. It's apparently been with us for as long as we've been around. First Nations has legends of these giants that lived here, double row teeth, red hair. This is it's absolutely terrifying to me to think that there are these things out there. I don't pretend to know for sure. I've not seen one, but as with everything with the paranormal, I keep an open mind. And if someone is brave enough to come forward and say, hey, I had an experience with a giant, I would tend to believe them unless I had some reason not to. Because that's not a claim anybody, I don't think, would make lightly. And of course, Duke, our very own Duke Sullivan, knows quite a bit about the giants and has done many shows on World Bigfoot Radio about the giant phenomena. And so that'll be tomorrow night on the Paranormal Portal, right here, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time tomorrow night. Rock Castaldo will be joining me, and we'll be talking about giants. So I hope you guys will tune in and check that out. That's going to be amazing. Going to be amazing. So, let's see. Where the hell was I? I didn't read this, did I? Oh, okay. No, I didn't. So this one is coming from New York, which is where Ra's from, actually. That's kind of serendipitous. It has to do with a haunted life. It says, I originally thought that there was a spirit in my house that was bound there because it had died in the house, but I guess I was wrong. I think it's following me. Last night I went over to my friend Nicole's house to watch some movies, and it was about 8 p.m., and we were both sitting next to each other on the couch. And now just to explain the layout of the room, the doors she has leading out of the room are huge sliding doors that were closed at the time. The television is next to the doors up against the wall, and the couch a few feet back from the television. Now, we were about 5 minutes into the movie when I heard what sounded like footsteps right outside the doors. I glanced over at my friend, who was looking at me. She had heard them too. Now, her parents were out of town, and she doesn't have any siblings. She grabbed the remote and turned the sound all the way down because we still wanted the light, as all the lights in the house were off. As soon as the volume was almost halfway down, we could hear the footsteps a lot clearer. The distinct sound of pacing back and forth in the front room, and I knew so well. My friend didn't know that I had heard these footsteps before. We both got up from the couch and walked to the door. I reached out, grabbed the handle to slide the door open. But as soon as my hand touched the handle, the footsteps stopped. At this point, my friend was back on the couch, freaked out of her mind, but I wanted to know what was going on. I slowly slid back the doors, but remember, it was completely dark. I asked my friend where the light switch was, but she didn't want to even get up. Looking into her kitchen, which was the room I was looking in, it got really cold. I slowly stepped out of the dark, looking around to find the light switch, and I spotted something white on the wall. Assuming that was it, I walked over to it slowly, but as I got closer, I felt as though I was being watched. It was the switch. It was on the wall next to her computer room, which was open, and I raised my hand to flick the switch. But I also raised my eyes too, which was a bad idea. It was pitch black, but as I raised my eyes, I saw an outline of what looked like a man. It was blacker than everything around it. My eyes widened. It was literally a hand's length away from my face. I wanted to get the heck out of there, but I couldn't. I was sweating. I was so scared. Looking at it, it had no face, but it had the build of a man. Then out of the black figure came a voice. It wasn't human. It was a metallic kind of sound, but raspy at the same time. Dan, You left me. I heard that loud and clear, and so did my friend because she screams. Okay, so now I turned around and bolted into the room she was in, grabbed her by the arm, and literally dragged her out of the house, not to be mean, because I didn't want her scared. We waited in her driveway for 45 minutes until one of her friends came to keep her company. I felt really bad for leaving her, but I was scared out of my skin. As I'm writing this, I feel like he is here. If anybody could help me, I'd appreciate it. There is that. That's the tough part, is when a spirit attaches to somebody. And it could be for any number of reasons. It could be something about you is familiar to them from their life, or it could, if they're a dark thing, they could just be targeting you, and that's an oppression of sorts. Not necessarily demonic, again, but it's an oppression. It could be that you did something that roused this spirit from wherever it was resting, wherever it was comfortable. You might have done something inadvertently to pull it out. And by saying that, I'm talking about seance, Ouija board, that kind of stuff, where you're pulling a spirit that's at peace and it's doing its thing. But they can get really pissy, and it may tend to make you their hobby. Now, the one thing about spirits, they got all the time in the world. They can follow you around for years, decades. Doesn't matter. So this is a pretty tough place to be. It is curious that he dragged it from place to place with him, or at least it came place to place with him. Generally, it seems to me, and this is the theory, but like every place has an energy. And I believe every place that has an energy also has a presence of some kind. I think that, I don't know, this may sound flaky as hell, but I think that every place has a spirit, so to speak, a spirit, like a presence, an energy, a state of being. And I find it really peculiar that if something was following this person, that it could manifest so clearly and completely, even though it was in a whole different place. It seems to me that there's almost the necessity for either a surrender or a permission for a ghost to truly manifest in a place. Like, they can be there, but I think they're kind of locked down, for lack of a better term. But through a period of attrition, they sometimes cause people to lose control of their situation. And then, therefore, the darker intelligence will take over and assert itself more and more. Now, there's also good spirits that are in a lot of places, and I don't know this for fact, but I always assume that they are territorial in a manner of speaking. Like, if you're protective of your home and life, why wouldn't you be in death? If you were still attached to that place and you were still lingering there, of course you would. But it could be that this presence is just very, very powerful, and whatever lingering spirit of the house or spirit of a person that used to live there may not have been able to keep it from manifesting. But in any case, it seems to me that it's not just as easy as dragging a balloon around and going, oh, here's my balloon. No matter where I am, this balloon's with me. But that's a lot of hypothesis on my part, a lot of ideas on my part, without any way to substantiate that at all. Just some gut feelings, if you will. But it seems to me that that's the case. All right, going to pull up a couple more here because we still got time, and I'm not done talking to you yet. There's no calls. Good. We're doing good. All right, the next one is coming from New York. Again, this is to do with I don't know, maybe Skype just disconnected for a second, but it looks like we're okay. I said there's no phone calls, and then the Skype then the Skype does that. That startled me. I was like, yeah, what's that? All right, so we're back, I guess. Not that we went anywhere, but yeah, we're still connected. The phone board is still live. So, all right, so apparitions, voices, and touches. It says, I live in a very small town in New York. The house I live in is reportedly one of the first that was built in my entire town. At one time, this house was a saloon and then a schoolhouse. I tell you this because it may be relevant to what is happening in my house. It all started one night when I slept in the room that my two little boys sleep in. My youngest was just born, and I was sleeping in there to let my husband sleep through the entire night, and I woke up to feed my son, and the closet door, the only closet in the whole house, opened by itself and then closed. I told the spirit, "Not tonight. I'm too tired." Well, I got left alone for a while. The next occurrence happened while I was in bed and got the feeling that I was being watched. This continued for several nights, and then one night I heard something in my boys' room. It turned out that the lock on their closet, yes, I put a lock on the closet, was undone. My boys were too little to reach up there or climb up there, and from that night on, I kept getting the image of a man in a black top hat and black overcoat. He looked wet to me and angry. He would just watch me as I tried to sleep, and only when I was alone. If my husband was in the bed with me, the spirit would leave me alone. I finally got fed up with this spirit and told him he was not welcome in my home and that he had to go to the light. And I haven't felt him since. My husband and I both have seen a woman in white and a little boy in our kitchen. She feels more like she is protecting us, so I let her stay. She isn't scary at all, and yes, I do feel her and the little boy too. Another little boy spirit has recently taken up residence in our house. My husband and I were in our bed one night, and I heard, "Mommy," whispered, and I thought it was one of my kids, but they were all asleep. So I hurried back to bed and let my husband know, and he got freaked out by this. We're about to fall asleep again when we heard, "Mommy," whispered yet again. So I said, "Time for bed. Good night." And we had no further whispers that night. About a week later, I had another encounter with this spirit boy. I wasn't feeling well and went to bed before my husband, and I was drifting off, and I heard it again. "Mommy." And then I heard, "Look at me." Well, I didn't stick around after that. I ran downstairs. My husband took one look at me and knew something was wrong. I told him, and he came to bed with me. My daughter has asked why I come into her room so much. Well, I only go in there once a night right before I head to bed. My youngest will talk to somebody that isn't there, and that is all that has happened so far. I'm not scared, but it is all interesting to me. What do you all think? I think this person is doing it right. I think they are. I don't know. I don't know that it's unusual. Again, I'll go back to this. I was just talking about it, about houses having presences or spirits or an intelligence to it, and I think that is true. And I think that when a place resonates with you, you know it when you walk in. When a place doesn't resonate with you, you know it when you walk in, and you don't want to be there. Now, I think sometimes these presences are just maybe a culmination of lifetimes of energy in a home, and it becomes, I don't know if I want to say absolutely sentient or not, but it at least has an awareness, or at least it has an aura. Now sometimes it's also there's former people are there or other things, and it's hard to know. Many cultures have different ideas about this. In Slavic tradition, the domovoi is a spirit of a house. Every house has one in their traditions, and it's generally tied to the family that lives there, and it's by and large it's a real positive presence. I don't know that it's considered negative at all. I mean, you don't want to piss them off, but for the most part, if you live in harmony with them, you'll have a harmonious home. I think that's true everywhere, but I think that's that's how they recognize it, and they gave it a personality, and they gave it a name. I think that all houses have that awareness, that energy, that whatever is made here has a reality of its own on this plane of existence, and maybe it even has a personality. I don't know, but I think that's she's handling it well. She was talking to it. Nope, I'm not interested in doing this. Nope, and sure enough, the activity died down. Then the top hat guy was all crabby. She told it to get out. She took control. And I think in 90% or better of the haunting cases, that really is probably all that's necessary, because there does seem to be, the living do seem to have a precedence or the ability to say this. We don't always know it. We become so scared and freaked out by things that we surrender our power. But if you can retain your sanity and your wits, you should be able to tell something to get out. Stop. No more. And it should listen. If it doesn't listen, then you got bigger problems and you need to take care of that. But if it does listen, then you've taken care of your own problems. So these presences are everywhere, I think. Now, I know that's a pretty bold statement to make, and it's just my opinion, but I think there is something very profound to that, and that this does come up. So if you do have a haunting, if you have a situation like this in your home, and you feel like something's there, talk to it. Let it know. Let this being, whatever it is, let it know what you're okay with, what you're not okay with, or just tell it to get out if you're not okay with it at all. You don't want it there, you don't want to deal with this ever, then by all means, you have that right. But this person did really good. It seems to me, everything that I encourage people to do, this person did. And it sounds like she had really good results. The whole kid thing is tough, though. I don't know. Again, if you're familiar with the show, you're familiar with me, you know my opinion on this, and I don't need to keep stating it, but it just so it so happens that kid spirits, I don't know. It seems hard for me to get my head around. Again, I'm not saying there are no kid spirits. I do believe there are. I just don't understand how come, because if there's any right and just divine presence in this universe, they should be brought home. So anyway, I don't know about you guys, but I think that that's our show for tonight. Again, I would like to remind you, put it out there, tomorrow night, Rock Castaldo will be joining me on the Paranormal Portal, and we'll be talking about giants. And he really knows his stuff on this. He and I have talked a bit, and I'm really excited about it because, again, this is a topic we haven't really covered. We've discussed a little bit in conjunction with other phenomena, but I'm really happy to be doing a standalone show on giants because I think this is an intense phenomenon, an intense, dynamic to this. And I don't believe that they're maybe here all the time. They may be subterranean or whatever, but there's a history of them being around. There are stories around the globe of these things. And so there are still people witnessing them to this day. Whatever they're doing, whatever they're here doing or whatever, I don't know. But I'm absolutely excited to be doing a show about it. So tomorrow night right here in the portal, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, we'll be discussing giants. And I hope you guys will tune in then. Again, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time right here on YouTube as well as tfrlive.com. So that's going to wrap up our journey for tonight. Thank you all for being here with me. I appreciate it. It's always a pleasure. And I hope you guys have a wonderful night and a wonderful day tomorrow. It's Friday. So kick back and relax after you're done work tomorrow and join us here on the Paranormal Portal. So love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Find the magic in every day. And remember to laugh as much as you can. All right, guys. Love you and sweet dreams.